Hello again and welcome back. Welcome to a new class, 168. And I'm going to continue with Nigel. I'm sorry, probably saying, mira, esto hasta aquí del Perkins este. I'm sick and tired. I'm sick and tired. Se dice así en inglés mucho. Enfermo y cansado no significa que estés enfermo, ni cansado. Significa que estás harto. I'm sick and tired of Nigel Perkins. I'm sorry. But learning English isn't a bed of roses. All right? El aprender inglés no es un lecho de rosas. So, there's a boring part. And the boring part is again, and again, and again, and again. Saying, Dios mío. Yeah. Ya sé que es flu. All right. No, you don't know it. Because you have to be able to reproduce it spontaneously in routine and compromising situations. Effectively. The grammar has to be an ally. A what? An ally. What's an ally? Ally is un aliado. It's the opposite of an enemy. The English grammar has to be your ally that articulates, not an enemy that can entorpece. So remember this. And understanding grammar, recognizing grammar, sí, claro, flu, is not enough. Bam. It has to be automatic. It has to be automatic. Ahora voy, ayer fui, mañana iré. Y últimamente he ido. Iría si pudiera. Habría ido si hubiera podido. Bam, bam, bam. To be able to reproduce it como el abecedario. Como las tablas de multiplicar. 3 por 7, que la nueva generación no sabe. 3 por 7, 21. 3 por 8, 20, etc. 3 nines are 27. Bam, bam, bam. Give it to me. Don't give it to me. Take it to him. What did you do? What will you do? What do you do every day? What does she do? Etc. So, let's finish Nigel, please. And then, a ver, ni mirado. And then we will go into irregular verb practice. I told you last week that Unit 17 and 18 are very dense. And they're dense for a reason. Because we need to establish and to plant deep roots, raíces profundas, in the management of the past tense, in the command and mastery of the past tense. The past tense is not the most important tense, but it's one of the three most important. The most important? Well, really, there are 5 that are important. The present tense, continuous and simple. The past tense, continuous and simple. The future, with will and going to. The present perfect, continuous and simple. And imperatives. Imperatives. Do this, don't do that, come here, etc. Which is, I consider, basically a different tense. All right. Are you ready? Okay, let's continue. Do you remember from yesterday, Nigel and his wife flew to Monte Carlo. The flight lasted an hour and 50 minutes. They left their car parked in Gatwick Airport. They drove from their house to Gatwick. They flew first class. When they arrived at the airport in Monte Carlo, they caught a cab. They caught a taxi. And the taxi driver took them to Ronnie's apartment near the port. They rang the bell, and Ronnie wasn't home. They were surprised. And so they decided to... Nigel didn't have a cell phone, and Margaret didn't have one either. So they decided to kill some time looking at the shop window. Shop window? Claro, ventana de tienda. Son los escaparates. Me gusta más la palabra en español. So, they were surprised to find that Ronnie wasn't at home. Did Nigel have a key? No, he didn't. Well, what did they do? They decided to kill some time. Okay, and what did they do? They looked at the shop windows. How long did they do that? I don't remember. Well, Richard, yeah, it says it. Look at the text. Sorry? Look at the text. Why? Because it says how long or how much time they spent looking at the shop windows. Oh, okay. After 20 minutes, okay. Yeah. What did they do after 20 minutes looking at the shop windows? What did they do? Yes, what did they do? What did they do? ¿Qué hicieron? What did they do? What did they do? They went back to the apartment building. Why? Why do you think? They went back to the apartment building to check or to see if Ronnie was at home. So did they ring the bell again? Yes, they did. Does it say that? Excuse me, does it say that they rang the bell a second time? You see here? He's ringing the bell. But that was the first time. Did they ring the bell a second time? Oh, yes. How do you know? Well, I suppose. Never suppose. Does it say that? Let me check. They went back to the building and tried again. So, to try again means, significa, el intentarlo de nuevo, to try again means that they rang the bell again. Doesn't it? All right. Okay. So yes, they rang the bell a second time. And was Ronnie there? En español diría estaba Ronnie. Estaba. ¿Ya estaba? Y lo dejáis sin decir dónde. En inglés no puedes. Dices, was Ronnie, parece una expresión existencial. Era Ronnie, estaba Ronnie. No, estaba Ronnie allí. Hay que añadir aquí o allí, según. Was Ronnie there? What, the second time? Yes. No, he wasn't. He still wasn't there. What was the weather like? Well, it was a little bit cold. On the French Riviera in Monte Carlo? Well, remember, Nigel and his wife go to Monte Carlo between November and March. So in the autumn or in the winter or in the beginning of spring. And it's not necessarily hot or warm on the French coast or in Monte Carlo in the winter. Well, what was the weather like that morning? The weather was nice. The weather was good. So you think good or nice? Fine. The weather was fine. I mean, fine. But it was a little chilly. Chile. El país Chile. No. Chile is a country, yes. But the pronunciation is identical. For Chile means un poco frío, de que das un poco de escalofrío. Hace fresquito, hace frío. It's a little bit chilly. To chill, sin la Y al final. Chill is enfriar algo. Enfriar una cerveza, to chill a beer. Y también cuando decir, tranqui colega, mira, cálmate, say, chill out. Enfríate un poco, chico. Decimos en inglés. Chill out. Cool it. Don't get so angry. But I need to learn English more quickly. What's the problem? You're going too slowly, Richard. Come on, speed up. Come, well, I don't like it. Hey, cool it, man. Cool it. Chill out. So you say chill out. We must consolidate every step. Don't worry. And remember, this part is much more important than this. Progress is not moving into less explored territory. Progress is dynamizing and gaining greater agility with this. The quote unquote easy stuff. En inglés cuando decir entre comillas, lo entre comillas fácil, la cosa fácil entre comillas. Solemos decir quote. Quote es esos pequeños marcas, son quotes, quotation marks. Quote, unquote. Comer, descomer, literalmente. Mastery of English is basically the mastery of the quote-unquote easy stuff. But it's not easy. It's easy perhaps to understand, theoretically, but it's not easy to master automatically. ¿Eres amo y señor de la gramática básica inglesa? Huh? Are you? Probably not. If you are, well, I recommend you continue because there's vocabulary and expressions that are very interesting. All right. So what was the weather like? What was the weather like? Así se dice, ¿qué tiempo hacía? ¿Qué tiempo hace hoy? What's the weather like? What's the weather like? Alternative, how's the weather? But how's the weather is a conversation piece. You don't, if you really want to know the weather, we don't say, how's the weather? You say, what's the weather like today? For example, if I call a friend in New York, hey, Johnny. Yes? Johnny, this is Richard. Richard from Madrid. Yeah. Hey, how you doing? Fine. How's everything in New York? Fine. How's the weather? I'm not really interested in the weather in New York. It's just a conversation. Now, if I get up in the morning and I need to get dressed and my wife is standing near the window, say, hey, darling, what's the weather like today? What's the weather like today? So that means I'm really interested. She draws the curtains and looks out. It's raining and it's windy. All right. What's the weather like? So, what was the weather like in Monte Carlo that morning or that midday? It was a little cool, a little chilly. What was the temperature? Excuse me. What was the temperature? It was around 15 degrees. Degrees, grados, 15 grados. Degrees. Y la palabra degree, claro, se usa igual que en español. Hasta cierto grado estoy de acuerdo. To a certain degree, también se usa de esa forma. Y también para titulación, universitaria o secundaria. Secondary school degree, a college degree, university degree, high school degree, an advanced degree, a master's degree, etc. Pero aquí son grados centígrados, 15 degrees. Yes, the temperature was around 15 degrees. Was Nigel's wife uncomfortable? Well, she felt a little cold. Women normally have a smaller range. If it's 23 degrees, oh, it's so hot. If it's 17 degrees, oh, it's too cold. All right. So it's very difficult to please a woman with temperature. So his wife was a little cold. Yes. Well, what did they decide to do? Excuse me? What did they decide to do? In view of the fact, a la vista de que, en vista del hecho de que, in view of the fact that Margaret was feeling a little cold. Well, Nigel saw a bookshop in the distance. 300 meters, by caminata. 300 meters away, there was a small bookshop. And so Nigel decided to take Margaret to the bookshop, to go inside and to get warm. Yes, it was too cold outside. Does Nigel like going to bookshops? Well, yeah. Any person who likes knowledge loves bookshops. I can spend hours in bookshops. But yes, Nigel likes to spend time in bookshops. What about Margaret? Excuse me? What about Margaret? What about Margaret? Well, does she like bookshops too? No, she doesn't. Why not? I don't know. Do you expect me to know everything? Come on. I don't know Margaret personally. Well, I met Margaret once. I met her at a convention for detectives. Can you believe it? Congreso de Detectives. Private detective convention. And I met Margaret once, just a fleeting moment. The refilón. Fleeting moment I met Margaret. Yes. And, but she was uncomfortable. Well, in the bookshop she was okay, but she doesn't like bookshops. So what did they do? What did they decide? Well, Nigel decided to call his son. But he didn't have a cell phone. He didn't have a mobile. Well, then what did he do? He asked permission to use the bookshop telephone. Ah. And did they give him permission? Well, I suppose so. How do you know? Well, because he called his son. I mean, if they hadn't given him permission, he wouldn't have called his son. Uy, Richard, estás usando el pasado del condicional. Eso está por aquí. Yeah. Yeah. Pero te doy catas del futuro. All right? A little moments. Yes. So he called his son. He called his son from the bookshop telephone, or from the bookshop. And did his son answer? Did Ronnie answer the phone? Yes, he did. And what did Ronnie do? Well, first he apologized. Remember, he said, "I'm sorry." No, he didn't. Yes, he did. It says it here. Lo dice aquí. It says it. Fíjate que hay it dos veces. Lo dice, ello lo dice. Ello lo dice. Así decimos en inglés. It says it right here. No, it doesn't. Yes, it does. Let me find it. Let me find it. Let's see. All right, they decided, etc., etc. Let's see. Nigel asked permission to use the telephone and called Ronnie's mobile number. Do you remember that? Yes, I remember that. Ronnie was in a meeting. Do you remember? Oh, yeah. Who was he in a meeting with? Excuse me, don't change the subject, eh? You said that he apologized. Now you're changing the subject. You were wrong. He didn't apologize. Excuse me. Wait a minute. Let's go in order of the events, okay? All right. So, when Nigel called Ronnie, Ronnie was in a meeting. Do you remember? Yes. Who was he in a meeting with? Excuse me? Who was he? Who was he in a meeting with? ¿Quién está él en una reunión con? Otra vez, precolocación. Who was he in a meeting with? He was in a meeting with a tour operator. Okay. So Ronnie works in the tourism. A little, more or less, yes. Renting yachts. All right. Was the tour operator's office near the bookshop? Yes, it was. Yes, it was near the bookshop. Now, listen. Ronnie was in a meeting with a tour operator not far from the bookshop. He said he was sorry. Who said he was sorry? Maybe the tour operator said he was sorry. No. Ronnie said he was sorry. You see, Ronnie apologized to his father. You know? Un niño no es tan díscolo como crees. Eh? He's not such a bad boy. He knows how to say he's sorry. He knows how to apologize. So, he said he was sorry. Yeah, good. Fine. Okay, you win, Richard. He said he was sorry. He apologized. You see? I was right and you were wrong. I was right and you were wrong. Now, what did he tell his father to do? Well, he told his father to go back to the apartment building and to call the porter or the concierge. Yo prefiero concierge. Aquí dice porter. Y lo puse yo, hace años. But I prefer concierge. So he told his father to go back. Yeah, but did he tell him to go back with his wife or to leave his wife in the bookstore or in the bookshop? I don't think he mentioned this, but I'm sure that the idea was Nigel would go back with his wife. So he told his father to go back to the apartment building and to call the porter and ask for the key. Does the porter have a key to Ronnie's apartment? Apparently so. Al parecer sí. Apparently so. Apparently so. So, what happened? Well, did Nigel go back? Yes. Did he go back to the apartment building? Yes, he did. And what did he do? He called the porter or the concierge. And what did the porter do? The porter gave Nigel a key to Ronnie's apartment. Well, no. No lo dice aquí. The porter went up the lift or the elevator with Nigel and Margaret, and he opened the apartment door for the couple, la pareja. And did they go in? Well, of course they went in. And what did they do? I don't know. I imagine they sat down on the couch or on the sofa and waited for Ronnie. Did Ronnie finally arrive? Yes, he did. Did he arrive right away? Enseguida? No, he didn't. How much later did he arrive? He arrived 2 hours later. Can you believe it? 2 hours later. Ronnie Perkins. We finished Nigel. All right, we finished Nigel. Let's continue with the simple past. When did you buy your last car? I bought my last car, my current car. The car I have now, I bought it in December 2010. Almost 10 years, 9.5 years ago. One more, almost 10 years ago. We're in September now. Almost 10 years ago. When did you buy the car before that? Before that, I bought a car in 1992, 28 years ago. Wow, 28 years ago you bought your previous car, and you bought the next car in 2010? So you had, don't you remember? No te acuerdas? Don't you remember? Escuche como enlazo la T de don't con la I, la sonido de I, de you. Don't you? Chewing gum, chicle, chufla, chewing gum. Don't you remember? Portugal, future, mature. Don't you remember? Don't you remember? Remember what? Between 1998 and 2010, for 12 years, I rented cars. A 4-year rental contract. 3 different cars, every 4 years, boom, boom, boom. And then I decided to stop renting and to buy. So the car I have now, I bought it in 2010. The last time I bought a car before that, to buy, not to rent, was in 1992. How long did you have the car? I had the car for 6 years, until 1998. Did you sell it? Yes, I sold it. Really? Yeah, I sold it. Yes. And then I rented a car. All right. Where did you meet your wife? I met my wife in Calle Mayor, in Madrid. I met my wife in a language school. I met my wife in the morning. I met my wife in 1975. I met my wife in the first 10 days of November, 1975. How old were you when you met your wife? Excuse me? How old were you? How old were you? Escucha. Claro, ¿cuántos años tienes? Is how old are you? Dar. How old are you? Fíjate la D de old como manda. How old are you? Claro, si la mujer, la esposa de Darth Vader, le preguntara, Darling Darth, how old are you, Darth? How old are you, Darth? How old are you? Y el pasado, how old were you? Were. Estoy exagerando un poco. How old were you? How old were you? How old were? No decimos how old were. In Spanish, you say, how old were you? were you? No, how old were you? How old were? How old were you when you met your wife? I was 23. I was 24. Yeah? I was 24, I think. Let's see. November. Well, I turned 24. My birthday is in the first 10 days of November, and I met my wife in the first 10 days of November. So probably I was 1975. I was either 23 or 24. I turned 24 on November 9th, 1975. I think I met her a few days before. So I was 23 when I met her. I was 23 when I met her. All right. Did you understand my last question? Yes, I understood your last question. And now I understand it's time to say goodbye. Bye.